If your method has code that has the potential of throwing an exception, you must either catch that exception or rethrow it. When your method throws it, it is assumed that the exception will be caught and handled or rethrown by any calling methods. Let's look at an example where we're going to write a program that creates a new file but does not catch the exceptions. So let's copy this method and we'll rename it to rethrow. And inside of here, instead of doing this try catch, let's just remove that. We can say, listen, I know that this might throw an exception, but I don't want to handle that exception. I would like to just rethrow the exception. You can do this by adding the throws word to the method's header and then specifying the exception that will be thrown. So we know that this one throws an IO exception, so we'll put IO exception. Polymorphism also works here, so you could say just exception if you didn't know what exceptions might be thrown. Now, if any method calls this method, then now they're on the hook for handling the exception. So if we add this to the main method, we see because we didn't handle it. So we can fix this again by placing this call within a try catch block or by adding throws exception to the main method. Your method can initiate the throwing of an exception by using the word throw inside of the method's body and instantiating an exception. Notice here, this method accepts hours and rate, but perhaps you don't allow overtime. There's no Java exception that will be automatically called for such a thing, as this is only an error from the programmer's perspective. So the programmer themselves can throw an exception. They can throw one that already exists, like this illegal argument exception, and just pass in a custom error message, or they can even define their own custom exception class, which extends from exception, and they can throw that instead. Perhaps something like no overtime allowed exception. Your optional exercise for this chapter is to write the following statement within a program and execute it. When you execute this, you'll see an exception. So I want you to update that program to handle the exception. And then print a statement after the division to say division is fun. This statement should be outputted no matter what happens in your program. Good luck.